Camilla, Kring.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The only thing more difficult than starting something new in an organization is stopping something old. So you go to work and you go home again. And you can work in the evening, you can work in the weekends, and you can work in your holidays. It's more difficult when people want to take some individual time between 9 to 5. I don't know if you feel that way, but a lot of people feel guilty if they want to take some time between this working 9 to 5 to check in and check out. So you still have in your mindset, actually, you have to go to work. And even here in Denmark, 75% of all Danes check in the workplace before 8 o'clock. So we still feel that we have to check in and be there. I see you, then you're working. I don't see you, then you're not working. But things has changed. And when we had the industrial society, let's just say 1953, there were 700,000 housewives here in Denmark, and the men was going to work. So we had this one family form and one work form. And we also had to be, in the same rhythm, Matthias. Simple line, you could say, when you had this, you have to be in the same rhythm at the same place. So you had this collective work design. In today's society, we have many family forms. People are getting married, children, getting divorced, having 2 children one week and no children other weeks. And we also have a lot of diversity in our work forms. Some people have local work, other people have global work. And technology makes it possible for us to have more individuality in our working times and working spaces. So we have to move from this collective work design to a more individual work-life design. And my philosophy is to set people free from 9 to 5, or here in Denmark it's 8 to 4 at the office, and let them choose when they want to work and where they want to work. And so my mission is to give people more freedom in when and where they work. Have you thought about when do you have most energy? I always ask people, are you a dromedary? Do you peak 1 time a day? Or are you a camel? It's people who peak twice. And then there are people who wake up and never peak. So that's really sad. Not so happy. And it's really about working, also when you peak mentally. Have you thought about if you are an early riser or late riser? I call it A person or B person. If you are early riser, you have the best energy of the day early in the morning. You can peak at 6 o'clock in the morning, and you could go directly from bed to work, and then you're peaking mentally. After lunch, a lot of A persons tell me it's going down. They really feel that they have top performed. And a lot of things in society, childcare institutions, schools, a lot of workplaces are supporting this A rhythm. A people feel that they have a good life maybe from Monday to Friday. Tomorrow it sucks because you get your B person friends over for dinner and they never go home. It's so terrible because if you are A person, you will always wake up early. So A persons also wake up early Saturday. They wake up early the day after New Year's Eve. So if you are A person, you always wake up early. If you are a B person, a late riser, you really hate life from Monday to Friday. Society is designed for A persons. Childcare institutions, school starts at 8 o'clock. So a lot of B persons, and it's not just by going to bed at 10 o'clock in the evening, you can't sleep. Even if people say, sleep, I can't sleep. Because like the A persons, where it's actually your inner clock waking you up early in the morning. For B persons, it's your inner clock telling you when to sleep. And often it's after midnight. And then 80% of the population are woken up by an alarm clock. 80%. And it's here in Europe, it's in the US, it's in Asia. It's all over the world. And it really makes people unhappy. And I think we could have much more happy people if we could send this alarm clock on pension. And give people more freedom. Also to have a more calm morning, for example, with the children. Because this model we have in today's society is really fucked up. We have to wake up our children early in the morning. Get up, get up! And then we have to force them to school, before 8 o'clock. Otherwise, you're a really bad parent. And then we are stuck in traffic to get to work. Why are you there? We only have a traffic problem 4 hours a day. And then we have to pick them up again if you have children. And then you are totally stressed. So why not create another model? For example, when I work with organizations and some employees, for example, can start working at 9:30 or 10 a.m., for example, if you are a B person, then you can reduce your transport time by 50%. But let's go back to being a B person, because if you are a B person, then often you postpone a sleep mountain in front of you, because you will sleep fewer hours. For example, you go to bed later and then you are woken up by an alarm clock. And you have this sleep pressure in front of you. And then often B persons will sleep more on the weekends. That's classic B, that you postpone the sleep pressure and then sleep more on the weekends. And A and B are, of course, poles, of reality, or it's different dimensions. Some of you are maybe light A or light B, It's just to make an understanding. How many of you think you are a person? And how many of you think you are a B person? Yeah. And so my mission is really that we could give also A persons A working hours and B persons B working hours. And when I work with organizations, the first thing I do is that they are mapping their culture. So when you look at your culture, do you see some of those examples of industrial work culture? For example, do you have a lot of pole sitting? It's those companies where they think, well, the more pole sitting, the more you can sit there at the office, then you think there's coming a huge productivity. They're very good at that in Germany. The pole sitting or having, very, very long days. And do you have those sarcastic comments? I have heard, I've been working in 11 countries, and they have sarcastic comments all over the world. Those sarcastic comments, if you show up 9:10, well, are you joining us today? I didn't know you were working part-time. Or if you're leaving at 2:30, well, have a good half day off. In Germany, if you leave at 5, they say, are you on your way to lunch? And I have found out that those sarcastic comments are creating a lot of guilt in people. People feel that they have to explain themselves. And this guilt and shame is really lowering the life quality in people. And people feel that they have a very low work-life balance satisfaction. So if you can go in and remove those sarcastic comments, people think they're very fun, ha ha ha. But they are not fun if people feel that they have to explain themselves, and also if people feel guilty. And some people, if they want to leave the company, just the office at 2:30, and they just, go like this because they don't want people to see that they're leaving. So if you feel like that, I think you should make a scene. I always say to people, then make a scene. Yes, I'm leaving! I'm leaving now! You just have to say it and set yourself free. So, yeah, because it's also very hard for people, to set themselves free. That's really one of the hardest things. And I also meet a lot of people who think they're so busy. I'm so busy. But what are you busy with? I don't know. What did you do yesterday? I can't remember. What did you do last week? I can't remember. Oh, you're really busy. But you're not very productive. You're just a hamster. And then I recommend him to do a hamster award or something like that. But I even seen something more worse, than the industrial culture. Today I will show you a cow. And why is the cow at the office? It's because, in the agriculture society, we had to get up with the cows. Or we have this Brother John, are you sleeping? Morning bells are ringing. Early to bed and early to rise, that makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. The early bird catches the worm. In France and in Spain, they say, if you get up early, God will come and give you a helping hand. There's no one saying, if you stay up late and work very hard, God will come and bless you. So a lot of people really feel so bad if they are a bee person and they're not a morning person. They really feel that they have to get up. They can't just have a calm morning. They feel that they have to get up and get something out of the day. Maybe you have had parents, How many generations do you have to go back in your family to find farmers? I think you have some farmers in your family. And it really makes sense if you have farmers in your family that you have to get up early. Because you have to get out there when it's light and be a farmer. But we're not farmers anymore. I like cows, I like to eat them, but I don't like to follow their rhythm. And I think we should stop designing our workplaces for cows and also our societies for cows. But a lot of people have this, moral thinking about getting up early. How many articles can you find on LinkedIn and so on about how to learn to become successful by getting up at 4 a.m. or something like that? Early mornings and become an early riser. There's no articles about how to become a successful late riser. So, are you willing to set yourself free? Also maybe from this farmer mentality. And are you also willing to be nice to yourself, for example, if you have a flexible work culture? Because that's really what it needs. A lot of companies say they're so flexible. But I always ask, do you have some people who start at 10 a.m.? And if there's completely silence, you don't have a flexible work culture. Maybe you have a flexible structure. But you need a flexible work culture so that people are feeling it's okay to use that flexibility. Because research shows that leaders favor early risers, A-persons. Just by showing up early at the workplace, people think you're more committed than if you show up later. Then people think you are lazy. So if you want also to design a workplace for B-persons, you have to create a work culture where you're supporting the differences in human beings. And actually in today's society, there are more B-persons than A-persons. So there's also a lot of life quality, a lot of productivity in designing workplaces so they also suit B-person. And that's what I'm doing. For example, when I'm working with international companies where they work between time zones, often they haven't thought about chronobiology, the research of people's biological rhythm, when you prefer to sleep and when you prefer to be awake. And then they give people maybe the responsibility to have Venezuela and Japan, and then they're working 24/7. It really makes sense to give A-persons Asia, here from Europe, and B-persons US, for example. So it's also a way to unite life quality and productivity and really make happy people. Because if you feel this trust, also as we have seen today in the examples, that people trust you, you can set your own schedule. You really feel this freedom inside you and it really makes you happy. So we have been in this transition from visible to invisible work. And my point is that we still had a lot of mindset from the industrial society and even from the agriculture society, which says, just from one generation, pass from one generation to another. Maybe you still can hear your mom. Get up, get up. Or maybe when you were leaving your home, your parents were calling you in the weekend and say, are you up there at 8 o'clock and get something out of the day? Yeah, but I have, a lot of people really can feel the parent inside them. And they have to say to their parent that I would like to live in my own rhythm. And it's actually genetic. So this from moving from visible to invisible work, and even if I see you, I don't know what you're doing, but I know that you are committed and you're working. So this transition from industrial society to today's society, in the industrial society, 80% of a company's value was material value. It was something you could see. In today's society, over 80% of a company's value is immaterial. And therefore it makes sense that people are working with the peak mentally, if you are a dromedary, or if you are a camel, or maybe another animal. And we should move from this collective work design to more individual life design. But then you also need the social acceptance of differences. So when I do organizational changes, I work with all the people in the organization. So if it's an organization with 100 people, everyone are going through the same journey. Because if you want to change, you need the social acceptance from the people around you. And that's really key. You can't change without also the social acceptance, especially when you want to change your working times or workspaces. So we have to move from being ants to being bumblebees. You don't believe that they can fly, but they actually do, and be free. I have 4 tools I would like to share with you, how to improve your work-life balance. Actually, I don't like the term work-life balance. I see that work is a part of our life. That's why I call it life navigation. And that you are a super navigator, a person who are taking the responsibility and also navigating your life. And I have 4 tools, and sometimes people are falling in love in just one role. They really feel, yes, I'm the timekeeper. So the first role here is the timekeeper. It's about having the overview of your life. I would recommend you to do a time registration of your week's 168 hours. A lot of people think there's 256 hours in a week. There are 168 hours. A lot of people, when it comes to Sunday, they say, somebody is taking my time. It's often, I don't meet so many people who go into a new week and say, yes, I've been giving 168 hours. How should I spend my time? So the first task here is to do a time registration of your week's 168 hours. The second role is about the pilot. It's about focus in life. It could be the long-term thinking. For example, also to think 10 years ahead, because the decisions you're making right now can also influence where you are in 10 years from now on. And it could also be a not-to-do list. Do you have a not-to-do list? A lot of people, we are making unconscious not-to-dos, but what are our conscious not-to-dos? For example, when people are doing the time registration of the week's 168 hours and they have a partner, they found out, I don't have any time with my partner. And then maybe they have put their partner on the not-to-do list. An unconscious decision. It could also be individual time. Often we only have individual time at the toilet or in the car. It's very small spaces. And it's so important when you're also on a plane, it's important to give life to yourself before you give life to others. So it's also important to think about yourself and having some individual time. The third role is the rhythm. It is, are you A person and B person? And try to live in that rhythm. Because if you are synced with your biological clock, it will improve your health and your learning and your productivity. So listen to your inner clock. The fourth role is calmness in life. Where do you find space for calmness? It's also because every time you get interrupted, it takes 20 to 45 minutes to come back. So a lot of people in today's workplaces can feel that they are interrupted all the time. And just, one step ahead and then one step back. And you really feel, well, what did I do today? So in this diagram, you can see the 4 roles here with the 168. The focus in life, are you A person and B person? And then you think, what is the frog? The frog means frog off. And the frog off is a symbol. It's a kind way to say, people, I would like to have, so don't interrupt me because I'm actually working on a task. Maybe you know Brian Tracy's book, Eat the Frogs. And then I've combined it with research showing that every time people get interrupted, it takes really long time to come back again. So when I do life navigation courses in companies, when they have gone through this journey of 15 hours, every employee, they got this frog, and then they are empowered to use the frog and say frog off. Often finance department, they buy their own frogs because they like to have big frogs, really to say frog off. And what I have seen when people are going through this journey with overview, focus, rhythm, and calmness, and become super navigators, it is when I have organization going through this journey. Maybe they have a 40%, work-life balance satisfaction, and after going through this journey, it's 95%. So when you give people this freedom to make more individual working times and spaces, it also really gives this work-life balance satisfaction. On the organizational level, what can you do with the overview? I recommend all teams to make an overview of all the tasks they have in the team, and also make a not to-do list. Because often there's too many meetings and so on, too many tasks, but what are we putting on our collective not to-do list? And then I map all the rhythms in the team, so when are they actually working? And a lot of teams are working 22 hours out of 24 hours if you combine all the rhythms, because some people are B persons and other people are A persons. And that's extreme valuable knowledge when you work with teams, that you actually know, are you A and B or in the middle? But what kind of rhythm do you need? And how can we combine individual rhythm and collective rhythm? It's like music. It's like improvisation. You can't improvise on nothing. You've got to improvise on something. So, and then frog time. Maybe if they share a space or an open office, or we can have frog spaces. And I always recommend leaders to have focus on their employees' frog time. So they have some frog time where they can focus. And the last thing I can also recommend you to do is, if you have an iPhone, you can download the Life Navigation app for free. And you can just start to use the tools with the overview, focus, and the rhythm, and the spaces. So we have to set ourselves free from the 9-to-5 society. We have to create workplaces supporting different family forms, work forms, and biological rhythm. And then we have to give people the tools to navigate their lives so they're willing to set themselves free. So be yourself. And thank you for today.
Brilliant, Camilla. I have one burning question for you. What kind of person are you, A or B?
I'm a B person.
Yeah, I thought
Yes.
so. So am I. How was it for you to be a B person? Tough, wasn't it?
When it's often a question I've been asked also, because people think it's been, this personal story, and also why I started up the B Society. I started up this organization where I fight for later starting times in schools and workplaces, and we have members in 50 countries, and I've had the organization for almost 11 years. It's a non-profit organization. And often I got this question, and for me, it was a part of my PhD project. So when I did the PhD, the B Society is actually a part of the PhD. But I've never been employed, so I think I would die if I had to check in at the office every day at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And often I say to organizations, if you both want A and B to check in at 8, it is the peak time for A's. And the only thing B's are going to do is they're going to have a cup of coffee and interrupt the A's.
Exactly.
And then you really have no productivity and all. So I often recommend, well, it's much better, So to give people this, it's important that people are not saying those sarcastic comments.
Yeah, but at many workplaces, it's quite hard to get promoted if you don't put in the right level of hours at the right times.
Yes.
So let's say that you really do want that flexibility that you're talking about in your life, but you also really, really, really would like a promotion. How would you convince your boss?
The first thing I will try to find out, if your boss is a B person, it's much easier.
Yeah.
Because research shows it's really, if you have a boss who's an A person, it really sucks. So if you have a boss who is a B person, then often there is more understanding. And it is so important that you try to do this as a collective issue and not just an individual issue. Because if you want to change, you need this social acceptance in the company.
You also have to be able to prove that you're actually efficient, that
Yes.
you are creating results.
Yes.
And I mean, if you work in production or, let's say, sales, it's quite easy to measure what results you're creating. But let's say you work in a knowledge-based company. It's not that easy to measure your results, how efficient you are. So how can you do the measurement that proves that you are actually more efficient when you get the flexibility?
Often I say the opposite, because if you just have polls sitting at the office, even if you look at your employees, it's a false way of thinking, well, you're very productive. So, and you know, talent wants this flexibility. So what you can do if you are creating this flexible work culture, also the millennials, you know, the new generations, you can recruit more talents because talents want flexibility. Even if you see them right here and right now, even they are at the office for 12 hours a day, you actually don't know what they're doing.
Okay, so where to start? What's the first thing to do?
The first step to do, I always start with the CEO, the general manager. It's really linked to the top of the organization.
Yep.
And then the management creates a space of navigation. And then you have to go through this journey now with the tools here, where people get the tools to navigate their life and this new mindset. And also try to test out. First, you have to be aware of new opportunities, and then you have to try them. Because what works for you? I've had people who have sitted at the office for 30 years, and suddenly they're trying to have a day at home. And then they have, it was where the wife was at home, so the person has to ask his wife if it was okay that he was working at home. And then after 30 years of working at the workplace, it's really scary, you know, to sit there at home. And a lot of people then don't eat lunch and so on because they just want to be so productive, and they just want to do so much work because they're afraid that people are not seeing them, then they think they're not working. Or for example, if people are working in a cafe, it's so embarrassing if the phone is ringing, you know, and you can hear this music, da 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 da, and then people think, well, it's not work. So they're so embarrassed, you know. So you need the top, you need the tools, and then you need to put it into the policies, put it into the hard change, and then you need to continue, because this is culture, and culture can change.
It's about setting people free. Camilla, Kring.
Tak.
Tak.